Today is April 14th, 2016. I'm Andrew.
My name is Kelly.
And I am Frank Mabry.
We are in Frank's home and we're going to ask him some questions about the Cold War. To start off, where and when were you born?
I was born in Lexington, North Carolina, January of 1948.
And what were you doing before you became a part of the Cold War?
Well, the Cold War affected me really from elementary school up until my working career into the mid-'80s, when the Cold War basically calmed down or ended in the mid-'80s with Ronald Reagan tearing down the Berlin Wall and also some changes in the governments of Russia.
Okay. How did the experiences that you had during the Cold War affect your life?
Well, during elementary school, there was quite a few drills because there was always a scare that there might be a nuclear attack from the Russians or the Soviet Union. We had bomb shelters. Everybody talked about putting a bomb shelter in your backyard, stocking it with food, supplies to last for 5 or 6 months, because if there was a nuclear attack, then you wouldn't be able to go outside or do anything like that. So it was quite scary. Now, things calmed down towards the end of the 60s and the early 70s, so it wasn't quite as bad. But during the 50s, there was a lot of scare and a lot of drills at school if there was a nuclear attack, what we were to do and everything.
All right. What are some life lessons you learned from the Cold War?
Well, that nations should get along, that talking and communicating with nations. I know that there was always the talk of the President of the United States at that time, whichever administration was in effect, always had a phone that he could directly talk to the President or whoever was in charge in the Russia or the other countries. So I think that averted a lot of things by them communicating or talking. So there was always news events. I think the biggest scare was probably in the early 60s when President Kennedy was in office and the Russians put nuclear missiles and things in Cuba. And I think that was when things came to a head and we almost went to war. And that was the biggest scare that I remember. And then shortly after that, things sort of went down and calmed down a little bit.
What message would you like to leave for future generations who haven't experienced this historical event already directly?
Just be sure that your leaders vote. Make sure that you vote for people that you feel are comfortable in leading the nation or leading the country and will get along with the other countries, because right now there's quite a few countries have the capability of nuclear war. And let it be known that nuclear war is an end all. I mean, nobody survives. It doesn't matter what you do or how you do. It's going to be an end all for everyone.
All right. Is there anything you feel we haven't discussed or should be added to the interview?
No, I think that's basically it. The Cold War ended in the 80s, and Ronald Reagan, I think, was the president, and he sort of got everything changed in the new leadership in Russia. So I think we're not living in the fear as much as we used to, but there was quite a bit of fear back in the 50s and the 60s that any day it might happen.
Okay. Did the Cold War affect you personally, or is it more of like a national thing, like a society thing?
It's more of a national society thing. I never experienced it. My family never had a bomb shelter. We didn't feel that it was necessary. I mean, what you gonna come back to if there's a nuclear attack and everything? So what you gonna come back to if you survive and everybody else is gone or dead in your family? So we never affected or had a bomb shelter, but there was quite a few people that did.
All right. And last question: how did your friends and family react to the Cold War?
How did our what?
How did your friends and family react to the Cold War?
The same as I did. There was constant discussion around the supper table of what would happen if this did, and especially during the 60s, early 60s, and quite a bit of discussion between family members of who was president, who would do the best job in the country for that and everything.
All right. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're quite welcome.
Yep.